Hey guys, what's going on? This is Adam Everett Miller, site editor over at AETETS Plus, and today I'm going to be looking at CC_BallAction as part of the After Effects A through Z series here on MotionWorks. So let's go ahead and jump right in. In a new composition, I'm going to create a solid, and then I'm going to apply CC_BallAction. Now this is one of the Psycore effects that was adopted into After Effects. And by default, when you apply it, it looks kind of like almost like graph paper. It's kind of a grid-like look. With what this is all these individual squares. It basically creates an array, and then within each small square there is actually a sphere. And I don't know why by default the sphere is larger than the square itself, so it doesn't look like a bunch of little balls. But as we just really quick just turn the ball size down to 50, I almost feel like this should be the default, but it's all right. I'm not going to argue. Now we can see that it creates, basically will turn your footage into a lot of little balls, little spheres here. So we'll go ahead and just work our way right down. What we can do is first option is to turn up scatter, and that will just shift each one of these small little balls further away from its original point. And so if you crank it way up, there you go, 15 seconds and you have a nice little star field. But we'll reset that back down. Next we have rotation, and these two correlate with each other. The rotation is simply rotating the sheet of balls. So if this is scattered, you can see that we're actually dealing with a 3D here. It's not just it doesn't just look like they're little spheres, but they actually really are. And as we reset that and we rotate it to 90 degrees exactly and zoom in, we can see that this shows us we are actually looking at real 3D spheres rather than just flat guys, which is pretty cool. So let's bring this back. As we rotate, we can see that we're rotating here on this x-axis. We can switch to whatever axis we want. We can do the y-axis or the z. And so it gives us a few different options here. This is all keyframeable. Then you have x, y, x, z. And this is where it will do both axes, I'm not sure if you can say that, but both of them simultaneously. Moving on down, you have this, which is kind of funky. It's x15z and xy15z. And I have no idea when you're going to ever use this, but basically it will rotate for every one revolution, for one full rotation here. It's going to rotate 15 times on the x-axis for every one full rotation on the z-axis. So, I mean, I can set a keyframe here for 0, and then I'll move forward like 12 seconds and do one full revolution. And we can just see it goes crazy on the x for one z. If you ever find a good use for this, email me and let me know, because I have no idea. I guess maybe if you want to do like a tornado or something, but I'm not really sure. So we'll go back to default. So those are your rotation options. Next we have our twist property. And so we can see that if we twist on the x-axis, it will keep this right side, and it will kind of twist the other one around. And since we're only twisting we're only twisting the columns this way, we're not twisting the rows at all. However, if we switch over to the y-axis, you're going to find the opposite to be true, that it is going to, back to 0, it's going to want to twist on the y-axis. And you have a bunch of other options here. Centered here around the y, it'll twist the middle first. Radius, this kind of creates kind of a bulbous sort of look, more rounded. What else do we have? Random, this is just funky. It just takes it, and from it's still on the X, but it just kind of snags random ones. And then these red, green, blue, brightness, and these are just different shapes down here, but these red, green, and blue, we'll get to that in just a second. That's kind of cool. So, and this again is all keyframeable, that you can keyframe this. So let's go all the way back to the very beginning. I already covered ball size here, back down to 50, and then you have grid spacing. So if I crank this up, you can see that the balls themselves get larger. What's cool is if you knock it all the way down to 1, you got pretty much like kind of a dust sort of a thing. sure there's better ways to create noise, but if you want to, you can certainly do it that way. But when you do it like this, you get some pretty cool results, especially if, well, and I'll not get ahead of myself, but yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'll keep going down. 50. Okay, instability state. For this, it has to be, scatter has to be something other than 0. And so then what this will do is just kind of wiggle the all the different balls, all the different particles, then around that area. So this is what you'd want to keyframe if you just want to have some random, nucleus looking thing. You can keyframe this, and then as a result, these guys are just going to kind of wiggle in place a little bit. But if you have this set to 0, nothing's going to happen because they're all perfectly aligned in their grid. So cool. Well, now that we've gone through it, let's look at a couple different options of things that we can do. Undo that. One thing I'll say is, if you want to go and apply this, it'll only apply to something that is at 100% opacity. So, for example, if I were to take a mask and just draw a mask right in the middle of my solid, and I feather it, okay, well, these pixels here are not, if I remove it there, you can see that they're partially transparent. So then as I go and I apply CCBallAction, these are the only ones that are actually 100% opaque. If there's any transparency at all, it will not apply the plugin to it. So that's something to keep in mind. As I knock the feather down, it will show more. It can only work on 100% solid. But what is cool is I don't have to, pre-compose it to have a solid. What I can do is I can just create a new text. For example, I'll just write, AE tuts, and then I can drag and drop CCBallAction right on there, and it will create a nice kind of marshmallow looking effect. And then the same thing will apply with a scatter. So what I've done is done a quick little text wipe here, where basically I just applied it, and you can scatter your particles and then do a rotation keyframing it. Simply change the opacity and then have it kind of appear as new text here is one option, which is kind of cool. Another cool little thing that I did is I'd mentioned that I would get back to this here in a second, is you can drag and drop this right onto footage. So here I have a clip, and I've dragged it on there, but as I do so, I've rotated I've changed the twist angle to the brightness, so that the darker parts of the footage are going to rotate faster than the lighter parts. So as I move forward and rotate, it creates a really cool little transition here, almost Matrix-like in a way, as the dark parts rotate but the light parts kind of stay still. And so if you twist, you can keyframe it and create kind of a cool little transition, blending then into perhaps another random shot. So anyway, that's kind of interesting. But going back to our original comp, I'll just go ahead and get rid of everything and really quick create a new solid. There is some cool stuff. As we go ahead and scatter it way out, I'll knock the ball size down to 50 again. I'll just crank the scatter way out. What is really neat is I can create a new camera, and it is fully functioning with After Effects' native built-in 3D camera. So as I hit C and bring up my rotation, I can, well, maybe I shouldn't have scattered that much. Reset back down. I can then rotate around this. I know my problem. I have a 1-point camera. Let's switch the settings here. It's 1 node. I need to switch to a 2-node camera. All right, so now I can rotate around this point of interest. So there now, if I scale it up, or if I scatter it out quite a bit, now I can create kind of this 3D environment, and I don't need particular or anything else to do this. And So if you don't have particular and you do want to create some fun text effects or just even kind of an atmosphere, this could potentially be an option for you. One more thing that I did find on an old tutorial from back in the day, but I'll just kind of adapt it and make my own version here, is let's go ahead and create a new solid. One cool thing is if I apply a fractal noise to a new solid, I can set the, not fractal, but fractal noise. I can set the noise type to block, change the complexity down to 1, and then I have this nice, checkerboard black and white, effect here. So at this point, if I apply colorama, what it's going to do is look at any value from 0 to 100% on the luminance scale, and I can change my output cycle to any one of these kind of cool presets here. So let's just choose copper for fun. Actually, that's really ugly. Let's choose smoke and fire. That's cool. It's a little more manly. And then on top of that, if I go ahead and apply ball action, then depending on the grid spacing, I now get really cool multicolored balls. So if I turn this scatter up a little bit, and notice that they are going to want to merge with each other. You can create kind of a nucleus or some sort of a physics-looking animation if you want. But if we then do this and then animate the instability, you just get some nice color options as well. So let's go ahead and do a quick little RAM preview of that. I'll do it at a lower quality. You can just have some nice kind of amoeba-like, a nice floating background, which is pretty cool. As far as other resources on the web, I did actually create a tutorial about CCBallAction a while back, one of my first tutorials for AETUTS. And in there, I talk about how to create this sort of a text transition effect. I can mute that and talk through it, but there will be a link here below where you can check out how to do this specifically. And actually, as I talked through there, I had included a few different presets, a few ball action presets that you'd be able to download as well. Also, I should mention over on Video Copilot, Andrew Kramer has his 3D ball dispersion tutorial as well, which is a pretty interesting end result. It's pretty clean looking. So. Anyway, well, that is a quick look at CCBallAction. There are lots of options here to play with, and I'd love to see what you guys come up with. Go ahead and shoot me an email at any point. This is Adam Everett Miller for MotionWorks, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.